Hi there. Today let's go through problem number 5 from the LeetCode. The problem definition is as such. There is a given string, yes, and we need to find the longest palindromic substring of S. Therefore, there is another assumption we could make is the maximum length of S is going to be 1000. Well, let's see how this one of the assumption also could be used in as part of our solution. Well, let's go through the example, right? Therefore, the given string is BAD and the longest palindrome. The palindrome is a string wherein which it is the same if you go through it in a normal way or in a reverse way, right? Therefore, it's a BAB if I go through like this, and it's BAB if I go through like this. Therefore, this is the palindrome, and this palindromic string, right, has to be a substring in the given string, not just any substring. It should be a longest one. Therefore, there are three conditions, right? We need to find a substring. It should be a palindromic, and it should be a longest. And therefore, there are multiple answers that's possible here. Therefore, BAB is one such substring, and ABA is one such substring. Therefore, we'll try to return the first occurrence of this therefore it's not expected that we return all the valid answers. If one valid answer is returned, that's good enough. Therefore, there are several other examples also given here. Therefore, let's first think of the method in which we want to solve this. Therefore, the first approach we will go through is a brute force approach, right? Therefore, say for example, the given string is there, right? BAD. The approach we will follow is in the brute force, right? We will find all the substring, right, of the given string, and next is actually check if the substring is palindrome, right? Is it palindrome or not, right? That is the next check we are going to do. And the third is it longest, right? Exactly what the question told, right? We'll try to find. But here in the brute force, we'll try to find all the substrings as possible. Therefore, how do we try to solve it in programming, right? Therefore, to find all the substring, I could take two indexes, right? Therefore, the first index I can go through each one of the letters in the string. The other index, actually, I can move all the way from, say, the starting from here, right? Therefore, if both the indexes are pointing to that letter, then B is a substring, right? Therefore, is B palindrome? Yes, it is the smallest palindrome. In fact, that is possible. Next, I'll move the one of the indexes, right, the inner index loop, right, to the next one. Now BA is a substring. Is it palindrome? No, it's not a palindrome, and so on and so forth, right? Therefore, I'll move all the way till the end, right? Once this constitutes one iteration, then I'll move the outer index to the next one, and now I'll find out all the substrings starting from A. I need not start from B because the substring have to be contiguous, right? Therefore, BA is already covered. I need not cover it in a reverse way. Therefore, again the index will start from here. It will move here, and it will go here and here, right? And therefore, my substring would be AB, ABA, ABAD, and so on, right? And each time I'll check whether it's palindrome or not. Then I'll check whether it's longest or not. Therefore, this is a strategy in the brute force method. Okay. Therefore, let's try to solve it now. Let's copy our function definition into our favorite editor. Therefore, as discussed, I need two loops, right? Therefore, I'll let me call them I and j. I'll also calculate the length of the string, right? Therefore, let me store that in a variable called slen. Okay. Therefore, I have to include string.h. Therefore, slen is equal to strlen of s. Okay, now the for loop is for I equal to 0, I less than slen, and I plus plus. And the next loop, the for loop, the internal loop, right, there are two indexes for me now. The other one is actually before it is j. Here j doesn't start from 0, we discussed it, right? It starts with I because I need not go in the reverse direction to find the substrings. Therefore this is one thing, right? Now each time, right, therefore my substring starts with I and ends with j, right? That is our whole idea. Therefore I need to write a small code where I need to check if it is a palindrome, right? And what I have to pass the string, and I have to pass I and j, right, the start and end of it. Therefore let me quickly write this is palindrome. First let me code that and see how this can be done. Therefore let me do it over here. Therefore it would return a bool if it is a palindrome. Therefore it would take a int, not a int, character yes, let me still call it as a s, right, because it points to the same one. Yeah, int start, right, it's a start index actually, and let me call it as a int end, right. Therefore I need to find whether it's palindrome here, and since bool is defined in hash include std bool .h. Okay, now coming inside this, therefore the total number of elements, right, therefore again to find a palindrome I need a index, right, and also I need the total number of elements, right, in that the substring, right, that is equal to end minus start plus 1. Therefore that is, right, total number of elements, the index abstraction. Therefore next, right, to find whether it's palindrome or not, what I will do is I have to traverse half of the string to find out whether it's palindrome or not. Therefore I have to traverse from I is equal to 0, I less than num by 2, and I plus plus here, right, and each term I do, right, I will check, right, if from start plus I, right, therefore I'll be accessing s from two ways, right, from start plus I and till if I'll compare it against s of end minus I, right. Therefore in one way I will be incrementing the start so that it comes till the middle, in the other end I will be decrementing the end till it comes to the middle. Therefore each time I'll be checking, and my most important check is if it is not equal to, right, then I'll right away declare it as false because it's not a palindrome, and say if I'm successful in doing the for loop, it means that it's a palindrome, and I'll return true. Therefore this is a very small function for that. Therefore this would check whether it's palindrome or not, and yeah, therefore once I find out it's a palindrome, right, let me correct the spelling here. Okay, it's correct over here. If it is a palindrome, right, the next important check I need to do is to find the length, right, what's the length of it, right, because I need to save if it is the longest one. Therefore what I will do is I'll calculate the length. Therefore in this case length will be j minus I plus 1. It's very similar to what we did earlier, right, and let me save this, let me declare this, and also let me calculate the max length, right. what's the max length is going to be. Therefore, once I calculate the length, right, then the next important thing I need to do is check if this length is greater than the max length, right? If length is greater than max length, right, and then I am going to save this length as max length, right? And as well as let me initialize max length to 0, that is the most minimum value as possible. Therefore it's not enough that I just save max length, right? Oh sorry, length is equal to max length. Therefore it's just not enough I save, right? I need to also find out what was the index at which the max length was found. Therefore let me call this as max idx, and let me also initialize that. I also save that. Therefore max idx is nothing but I. Therefore from I have a palindrome of max length. Each time I go, right, I save this. Okay. Yeah, I think it makes sense. And once I found out the max length, right, I traversed through the whole thing and I found out the max length, right? Now I have to return that, right? Therefore I have to save it in I have to return it. Therefore if you remember the question, if I go back to the question, right, I have to return a string, and this string, the maximum string that S can have is 1000. Therefore even the return, right, the substring can be, the whole string could be, the whole string is obviously a substring of itself, and it could be a palindrome. Therefore the maximum return is 1000. Therefore I don't want to do any dynamic memory allocation here. Therefore let me assume that the return string is a global variable, so that it reduces the complexity for me. And since the length can be 1000, I can have 1001, right? Because I have to store the \0, which is the null character in the end. Therefore let me do that, and now I have to copy the string back here, right? Therefore this should be simple. This should be a normal string copy, strncpy, and I have to copy to R from S plus max idx, right? I have to start from there. I to copy it, and till max length, right? I have to copy. And one more thing I need to make sure is R of max length, right, is always equal to the null termination of the string, and I just return R always. Therefore let me quickly also write a driver function for this, okay, so that I can test it very quickly. Therefore int main, say for example I have a character pointer called p, and let me take the same example which is given in the LeetCode. Therefore printf longest substring is say %yes \n, and I call this function longest palindrome, sorry, and I pass in p to this, and whatever the return I get, I just print it and I return 0, right? Okay, let's quickly compile this and also check. Therefore I have implicit declaration to printf. I think I forgot to include stdio.h. Okay, it compiles fine. Oh, it's not able to find. I think something has gone wrong. We have to figure out what is it. Okay. If length is greater than max length, therefore I think I have to initialize length to 0 every is it required? No, it's calculated every time. Therefore that's fine. If length is 0, I think I should always start length equal to 0. That is fine. J minus 1 plus length is greater than max length, j length equal to j. I'm not sure why its substring is palindrome. Pass the p there. Therefore, let me just debug it. Let me just put a printf over here, printing I and j, %d, %d, j. I think something fishy is going on. I'm not sure I'm able to figure out that. Oh, okay. I'll save it. Okay. Okay, there are several palindromes found, right? I j equal to 0 is one of them, right? I is equal to 0 and j equal to 2. This is one of the palindrome. This is what we wanted. I minus, sorry, j minus I is, yeah, the length is 1 in this. Length is greater than max length, right? Max length is 0. In that case, this would get stored max idx equal to I. I'm not sure what I must. Idx and max length. Okay, let me try to print what was the max idx and this. I think it is, I'm able to find it. idx and max length. Max idx is 4 and max length is 0. I don't even understand how it's possible. Only if, okay, let's go for this, right? If I had reached the end, right, of this, then why is it 4? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, both are 4 in that case. Therefore I and j would be 4. Therefore the max length is 0. The max idx is, how can max length be? I have max length over here, right? To why it got overwritten to 0? Okay, let me look into it. Okay, I got the what was small mistake. Therefore, instead of saving the max length in max length, I had done the reverse. Therefore, that was causing the issue. Therefore, yeah, this should be the proper one. Therefore, now let me get rid of all the printfs. Sorry, it was a very stupid mistake. Therefore, let's compile it again, and we should be good now. Right. The longest substring is BAB. Therefore, we can submit this now to the LeetCode and let's see what happens. Okay. Therefore, before submitting, let me make this as static inline so that it's a little bit faster. Let me paste the solution. Okay, let me run it once before submitting just to make sure that there are no errors. Okay, let me submit. Okay. Okay, I am getting a time limit exceeded error. Therefore, basically our brute force algorithm is not efficient enough, because of which this time exceeded is coming. Therefore, if you go back and if you look right, therefore this takes O of n, this is O of n, and the palindrome also, right, goes through the substring once. Therefore, if you see, right, there is a loop inside a loop inside a loop. Therefore, it's O of n cube. That is why we are getting a time exceeded error there. Therefore, one way of optimizing it, right, is that say for example I am in the inside loop, right? Therefore, say I have calculated the max length here, right? Say I get as 10 or something like that, max length in the first iteration itself. then in the next iteration, when the I is equal to some value, say I is equal to 1, I need not start j equal to 1 I, right? Because I know that I have the max length of max length of 10 already. Therefore I can always start at difference of 10, right? I need to find the next biggest palindrome, right, if it was there. Therefore the very simple modification to the existing algorithm, right, say I every time I start a j, I don't start it at I, but I start it at the last max length which I have calculated till then, right? Therefore this will actually remove some of the iterations and make it faster. Still the complexity is O of n cube, because if every character in that string, right, was a unique character, right, then we wouldn't have any palindrome. In that case it would still go. Therefore the complexity is still O of n cube, but this condition will remove some of the iterations away. Therefore let's see, let's submit this with this small I want to copy everything and paste, because I don't want to change in the editor here. I just wanted to copy paste. Therefore let me quickly run it and see does it help us. Yes, it does. See, now it is succeeding. We are not having a good performance, of course, but it's not in a time exceeded thing. Therefore there was a small tweak done in one of the for loops, and this helped us. Okay, now this is our brute force method. Therefore let me just put it in a hash if defined brute force, and now let us look into a different solution, right, of it, else and if. The next solution we are going to look at is called as dynamic programming, or I would also like to call it as the matrix method. Okay, how do we go about it, right? Therefore let me clear it up, right? Therefore say for example I have a string, right, which is BA. Let us take the same string, right, BAD, right? Therefore one way of looking at is actually, right, is that say for example when I am the inherent property of a palindrome is that say for example if I have a palindrome, let's assume, right, A B B A, like this, right? Therefore here BA is one of the palindrome and ABBA is one of the palindrome. Therefore when I am trying to find out whether the whole string ABBA is palindrome, right, when I am doing this, right, I know that these two letters are equal to each other, and the other condition is the inner substring, right, is also a palindrome, right? Therefore the outer two, therefore, in this condition, right, to find whether it's a palindrome or not, what we can come to a conclusion is that outer, right, letters, is it equal or not? This is one of the condition, and second one is inner substring palindrome, right? If it is a palindrome, then we know that, oh, the whole thing is a palindrome. Therefore basically I am trying to subdivide the problem here and trying to see whether we can do with it. Therefore in this matrix method, right, what do we do actually is we create a dynamic matrix out of it. In our case actually it is, the string is always 1000, the length is 1000, right? Therefore we can have a constant length matrix here, but the idea is to have a matrix. Okay, let me write down it and let me explain how this goes. Okay, therefore this on the this side, this is the start and this is the end. Okay, therefore it is trying to find out all the substring which are starting from B and ending with B. Basically here this particular B, this is a palindrome, right? If it is a palindrome, I am going to put 1, and say the other, therefore I am only interested in filling the top part of the this whole square. I don't want to fill in these parts, right? I don't want to fill them at all. Only the diagonal and the top or top elements, right? I want to fill in. Therefore, the next thing is the string that starts with A and ends with B. This is a palindrome. Therefore, if I, J are same, right, then I know they are palindrome, right? Basically, right? If I have the index to this matrix as I and J, right? If they are equal, I know they are palindrome. Now, let us try to fill in the other elements. If the substring which starts with B and ends with A, what would happen? Therefore, this, right, if these two elements were equal, then it's a palindrome, right? It's as simple as that. In this case, it is not. Next is the one that starts with A and ends with B, right? That is starts with and ends with B. Even this is not a palindrome. Starts with B and ends with A. This is not a palindrome. And even the other one is also not a palindrome, right? None of them are a palindrome. Next, let's go here, right? The one that starts with B over here and ends with B over here. Now, to find out whether this is a palindrome or not, right? Now, we'll again, therefore, the trivial conditions are when the string is of length 1 or 2, right? Therefore, this I can directly fill in. I did not have any extra information. But when it comes to 3-letter substring, right? That is where our assumption of palindrome comes into picture, right? Therefore, is the outer 2 letters equal? That's the first thing I'll ask. Yes, they are equal. B and is equal to B. And is the inner string palindrome, right? This information I'll directly get below. Therefore, I have to fill in this particular cell here. Therefore, to find out that, right, I need to go one cell diagonally below like this and ask, is the substring palindrome or not? The answer is in the one string below, one cell below. Therefore, yes, it is a palindrome and B is equal to B. Then I fill in B. Therefore, this is how we try to solve it. Therefore, next would be the one that is starting at A and ending at the other A. Yeah, this is also a palindrome, right? And if you go ahead with B and D, right? BAD, this is not a palindrome, right? Then next is BA. This is not a palindrome because B is not equal to A, right? Then next ABAD, right? Even this is not a palindrome, and the whole thing is of course not a palindrome. This is how we fill it. Therefore, we once we fill this matrix, right, the top half of the matrix, then we'll find out, okay, which is the longest. We can find it out. Now, coming to the programming point of view, right, there are actually, when we are writing the program, there are two trivial conditions, right, which can be directly solved, right? One is if it's a single letter, right? In our case, I is equal to J, right? If it is a single letter, then it is always a palindrome, right? Right? It's always palindrome. Therefore, I may say I can represent it a little differently. It's always a palindrome, right? And say, for example, if J minus I, right, is equal to 1, if this is true, right, then we'll check, right, if those two, say for example, it is S of the index, right, if S and J are there, right, then I check if S of I is equal to S of J. If it is true, then I know it's a palindrome or not. And the third condition would be the reduction condition, right? If none of the first two conditions are met, then what I need to check is if the outer elements are palindrome or not, like say for example S of I and S of J, are they equal or not, and whether they are equal or not. This is one condition. The other condition is whether I plus 1, whatever is at I plus 1, right, and J minus 1, right? Therefore, if you see the string, right, A, B, A like this, right? Therefore, I calculated these two, right, whether they are equal or not by this condition. The other one is actually the substring. How to get the substring here? The inner string, not a substring, inner string, right, is if I move I one letter, one index or to the right hand side and this to the left hand side, then only I'll get the substring. In this case B, right, it is of course a palindrome, but that's how it can be even bigger, right, in some cases. This is how we try to solve it. Okay, the next interesting condition, right, that comes is how do we actually go through the matrix in this way. Therefore, see, one very simple is going via all row wise and column wise, right. You simply have a 2 for loop and you can go through the matrix very easily. But how do we traverse in this diagonal fashion, right? Therefore, if we put some thought into that, right, before we move ahead, say for example the same matrix, if I take BA BAD and BABAD. Now I say I fill all the indexes, right? Therefore, this will be at index 0, 0, 1, 1, right? Then this will be at 2, 2, 3, 3 and 4, 4, right? And this will be 0, 1, right? 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, right? The different cells in them, right? Therefore, if you see, right, if I list them out over here, in the first iteration it will be 0, 0, yeah, everything will be equal. If I write it over here, 2, 2, 3, 3 and 4, 4. In the next iteration the difference between them will be 1, 1, 2, 2, 3 and 3, 4. In the after that one more iteration, right, it will be 2 and then it will be 3 and it will be 4. Basically the difference, right, is keep on increasing. Therefore, this will utilize to find out I and j, right? I always starts from 0. If you see here, right, I always starts from 0, the first index in this, and the j is actually I plus whatever is the difference in that iteration, and we need to go to the differences all the way from 0 to 4, right? This is how we understand. Therefore, the key concept is that there are two trivial solutions by which it is there, and also we know that this is the reduction method, wherein which if we know that the inner substring is a palindrome, how do we find out the outer substring whether it's palindrome or not? This is the third condition. And we also know how do we find out, how do we iterate across the matrix so that we go through it diagonally, right? So let's now code it and try to solve it now. Therefore, I'll copy the same prototype also here, but it is actually quite different from the previous solution, right? Therefore, let me write it from starting. It's not just a small change. Let me also define a matrix, right, called as palindrome matrix P mat or something, and the size of which is 1000 across 1000, right? That's the maximum possible, right? I don't want to again go into malloc and dynamic memory allocation, right? And let me still have the same method of resultant to be stored in one of the array, right? Let me have both of them. Therefore, when I get this thing, the first thing is to fill in this matrix, right? Therefore, I need indexes here. I need I and j to go across the matrix. I also require a distance, which I will call it as a d. I also have to find out the s length, right? Therefore, let me do that. S length equal to string length of s, and once this is done, then I'll do for I is equal to 0, I less than slen, I plus plus, right? Therefore, this is where I want to go through the whole I want to generate the I, right? Therefore, this is one of the loops. The outer loop actually should be that of not of I but that of the d, right? Because if you look at it in that way, right, the distance between I and j is 0 for the first iteration, right? Therefore, let me write the d loop here. D is equal to 0 and d less than again s length and d plus plus, right? Okay, therefore this will become the inner loop and D will become the outer loop. Then how do I find J? J is nothing but I plus D, right? And one more condition here, right? I less than length. Not only that, right? I also require I plus D also less than S length, right? Because both the indexes should be I plus D also should be less than S length, right? Then only we are inside the matrix, otherwise we'll go out of the matrix. Therefore this is the other condition, right? Now this is my J, therefore I have calculated the J now. Therefore let me write all the conditions which we just discussed, right? If I is equal to J, then I know that actually what I should do, I should just make P mat, right? P mat of I and J is equal to 1. It's a palindrome, that's it. This is one of the simplest condition. If I else if, right, the other condition is, okay, if J minus I equal to 1, right, then the condition is that it is palindrome, right? Therefore let me copy this here. It is palindrome if S of I is equal to S of J. Only in that case, right, it's a palindrome. In the else case, right, then what do I do? Okay, it is a palindrome, but it has several conditions now, right? What are the condition? First is, okay, it is let me just do IJ, it is palindrome subjected, the same condition, right, that S of I equal the outer what you call digits should be same, and the other condition is that, right, that P mat of I minus 1, right, and sorry, I minus 1, and J no, I is plus 1, sorry, because I have to go inside, right? I have to increment on the left hand side and decrement on the right hand side. I minus J. If this condition is satisfied, right, if this one, then it is palindrome. Therefore I'm directly doing assignments here of the whatever is the resultant of this condition. I don't want to again put a if else condition, right? It looks clumsy in that way. Therefore this would look much neater and simpler also. Therefore this is the other condition, right? And say for example, now this is how I update the matrix, right? The P mat. Therefore by the end of the P mat I would have found out, okay, which are the from where to where, right, starting I have palindromes. But I don't want to do one more loop after I found out, after the for loop, right, to find out which is a maximum out of it, right? I don't want to do that. Therefore each time I'm done with updating the P mat, right, what I will do is I'll also try to find out whether say for example we need to store it, what is the length of it, and is it good to store it or not. Therefore I'll just go P of ij as a condition, and next thing I will do is I will check and say I'll have a length and max length, right? Therefore length and max length, because I have to store that, right? And max length is always equal to 0. We discussed this earlier, as well as max index, where is it, right? All three. Therefore by the end of this I can easily calculate the length. Length is equal to say not max length, it is j minus I plus 1. This it's the same as like before, right? Therefore we need to update the max length only in the condition that it's a palindrome and the length is greater than max length, right? This is the other condition, right? It should be a palindrome, as well as if the length is greater than a max length, right, then it requires updation. In this case I'll not do the same mistake as last time. Max length is equal to length, and also I'll store the max idx, right, is equal to nothing but I in this case, right? Yeah, I am little no, it's I. Yeah, it starts from I and ends with J. We have already discussed that, and it's pretty clear. Therefore, the same thing. And in the end, once I find it out, right, all the loops are over, I will do a strncpy of to the resultant array from S plus max idx, and the whole length is max length, which I know, and I will null terminate it at max length, right, and I will return R. Okay, therefore this is the matrix method. Hopefully it was simple enough. Therefore, to understand where the loop starts and where the loop ends and what is the condition, right, that is where all the secret of getting a good code is. Therefore, let's quickly compile and see what happens. Okay, I think I have expected at end. Okay, some condition I don't have. Okay, it's over here. I am extremely sorry. This is a syntax error. Okay, there is no other error. Let me run it and see. Okay, I'm getting the output here. Okay, let me now submit it to the leetcode and see what happens. Okay, this is much smaller than the last submission, if you see in that way. I'll quickly run it. Now submit. Okay, this is much I think faster than the last submission. I don't remember what was in the last submission, but yeah, but it takes more space, of course. Therefore, let's discuss about the complexity now, right? Therefore, if you see this from the space complexity, I am using a n cross n matrix here, therefore n square, right? Therefore, space complexity is n square. And if you see, there are two loops, one is for distance and another one is for the for loop, right? Therefore, the time complexity is also O of n square. Therefore, this is better than the last solution, but of course, right, we will not be satisfied with this and we want to improve it further. Therefore, the next best solution for this is actually we need to again go back to the drawing board and see, because it's little different. Therefore, let's discuss the next solution. Okay, let me clear this off. Okay, therefore, when we see the palindrome, right, if you see the first subroutine for the palindrome that was written, right, is that the string is given, right, and what we do is actually we compare the outer elements first, right, and then we go into the inner element and then we go to the much inner element. This is how the palindrome checking was done, right? This was in the first method. And in the second method, right, what we exploited out of the palindrome was that if we knew say if we knew the outermost letters and if we could compare them, right, we made a trivial condition out of it telling that E is the inner substring is a palindrome or not, and then by comparison we know that what happens to the outer and we use that. In the third one, right, we are going to change way in which we are going to solve this problem, right? Therefore, the palindrome, right, checking can also be done the other way around, not just from outside to inside, right? It can be the other way around. Say for example, I'll take let's take one of the example which was the same example which we discussed, right? And let's see whether we could solve it. How to solve it, right? So the same example, let's take BAD, right? BAD. Therefore, the next thing here, right, to see if any given string is there, right, I'll start with a middle element. Okay, B is palindrome, of course. Then I'll compare the next elements towards it. Okay, are they equal? Yes, then ABA is a palindrome. Next I go outside and compare. Are these equal? No, these are not equal, right? Then that is not a palindrome. This is the other way of checking it. Therefore, this is a odd length string. Therefore, if it is an odd length string, then we have a single letter in the middle. Say for example, I had an even length string, right? And let me take a palindrome in this case, right? Say it was sorry, something like this, right? Then what I do is I take these two things. I know this is a palindrome because they are equal, right? This is a first comparison. Next, I compare one, increasing one index and decreasing on the left hand side, right? And I check, right? I again and check. Yeah, it's a palindrome. This is the other way of testing it. Now, this is a method of testing a palindrome, right? Now we can call it as an expansion method, right? Expansion method, right? And what we do is we use the same expansion method, but we apply it on the string. Say for example, we have any given string, okay, BAD, right? Therefore we start with the first and we try to expand over this letter. Okay, we can't expand much because there is nothing on the left hand side. Therefore, is B a palindrome? Yes, yeah, it's a palindrome. Next, what we do is we move the index to A now. Okay, now is A a palindrome? Yes. Now we increase our we expand it on both sides, right? Next we ask is, oh, is B a palindrome? Yes, it is a palindrome, and we make note of it if it is longest, right? And okay, on top of it we can't have anything else, right? Next again we move back and we go to B, right? Next we expand over B and again over here and we check. This is the method we follow. After this again, right, we are not contented with here. We go to A and we expand across A, right? First is A itself and then we check this and then we go to D and do the same expansion over here. Okay, therefore this is how we want to iterate it, and this is the expansion method. Therefore there is a small catch here. Therefore this is for odd, right? This is how we can if we are trying to find only the odd number of palindromes, the length which is odd, right, then this would work. But in case of even, we need to expand it across two digits which are very consecutive with each other. Therefore the first even number expansion is these two. This is of course not a palindrome, therefore this can't be taken, right? The next expansion will be over A and B, right? And yeah, of course A and B is not a palindrome, therefore even if you expand, right, it won't be a palindrome. The next we do is across B and A. I think there is no even palindrome in this at all, right? But this is how we do, right? Therefore we try to find even the odd as well as the even. Therefore we expand across individual character as well as two characters consecutively and try to do it. Therefore let's code this up. This is the basic logic. Therefore this I want to name it as hash if defined dynamic, or it's also like a matrix method. Okay, therefore let me call it as a dynamic matrix. And our else part now, right? Let me copy the same result as well as the prototype here. Yeah. Now let's try to code in this solution over here. Okay. Yeah. Now we need to iterate the loop once to find out to pivot these expansion points at different indexes, right? Therefore I require index I, and I of course need to calculate the s length, string length, right? And let's do that. S length equal to strlen of s. Next thing is, yeah, here we can have actually few trivial condition. If say for example, right, s length is equal to 0, that means it's a null string, right? Then it means there is no palindrome and we can return null. And as well as if there is only one letter in the string, right, we can return right away that. Therefore let me do that. Therefore in both if the length is 0 as well as 1, right, in that case we'll return the s itself. We don't do any calculation over here, right? This condition could be used in other solutions also. I didn't use it, right? Okay. For now I is equal to 0, right, and I less than s length. Now it is -1 because we don't want to go till the end, right? because the last digit, anyways, if it is a palindrome, it doesn't matter. And when we are doing pivoting for the even substrings, right, even palindromic substrings, right, then we will go out of bound. That is the reason why it is -1 over here. And then what do we do? Right now we need to find out the expansion, right? We need to find out whether there is a palindrome here. Therefore I need to write subfunctions now, functions now. Therefore let me call it as find longest palindrome, right? And let me send s and s length to it, and I comma j across which it has to expand, right? And I comma I, sorry, yeah, this is the even expansion. Therefore I am expanding across I itself, right? That is why I pass the same thing here. Therefore I don't want to write two routines where it is doing for even and odd differently. Therefore to combine that, right, I am passing it two indexes across which it has to expand, but I'm keeping it as the same. That would still work. And the other condition actually is I pass I and I plus 1 here, right? The consecutive one, right? This is the even substring. Therefore in each case I will get a length. Therefore let me store it somewhere in length. Therefore let me call it as a length here, right? And yeah, let's see how this is done, right? How do we process the length? Again we need to have the same thing, right? Like max length, we need to find the max length, and also the max IDX, the same concept, IDX. Okay, therefore we'll come back to this filling this function later. Now let's try to write down the find longest pal. Therefore this would return integer, right, which is the longest one, right? And find longest pal at int s comma sorry, this is a character pointer, sorry, it's a string, and int length of it, and int the start where we start it, and where the other expansion point, I'll call it as end. You will see I'll reuse the variables and it becomes more sensible at that time. And we need to fill this up now. Yeah, therefore it's a simple condition. We put a while loop, and the first thing is that it should be greater than or equal to 0. It can't be the start index can't be negative, right? This is the first condition. The other condition is end should be always less than length of the string, and the other important condition is that s of start should be equal to s of end, right? Then we need to continue with our condition and go ahead, right? In this case, right, what do? I do the expansion. I decrement the start so that my cover moves further, and I increment the end for the same reason, right? I do this while loop, and in the end I return the end minus start minus 1. The length, the total length, right, is end minus start minus 1. This is as simple as that. Now once I get the length, right, what do? Again do a check if length is greater than max length, right? Then I store max length in max length and I also store across which index it occurred, right? But now this is not the start of it, it's a midpoint of it, right? Therefore we need to understand that. And in the same case, right, here if length is greater than max length, right, same condition, right? I need to store the max length here, and I need to store the max IDX. Therefore while storing max IDX, I'll do I plus 1 here, because I want to store the other index in this case. Okay, therefore this is all done so that when we finally do a string copy, right, it will actually find out. I'll tell you the reason why exactly we do this, right? Therefore let me give you an example for this, right? Therefore let's again go back to the drawing board, and I'll explain you why this is required, like for even and odd, right? say if a string was a odd, like a very simple example is ABA, right? Then say I got a start, say it was a part of a bigger string like D F G or something like that, right? And I expanded it over here and I found out that this substring is a palindrome, right? Then I calculate the start, right? In this case start would be 2 and end would be 0 1 2 3 4, right? And the length is of course 3, right? Therefore what would I store in the max length? Length is the length, right? That is 3. Therefore my max length would be 3, and the max IDX, right? Here I am storing the value of B. Very simple, right? I have expanded it across B and that will be my max IDX, right? As 4, right? Therefore when I am next copying the string, right, then it becomes very simple, right? Therefore what I do is I copy the string wherever the start, right, start calculation will be equal to max IDX minus whatever is the max length divided by 2, right? And yeah, I think so, yeah, max length divided by 2, yes, right? That would work in this case. If it was a even, right, say for example it was a B B A and FG over here and DD over here, right? If these two got stored, right, then if I store this, in this case IDX is this, right, then when I'm calculating the start, right, I would actually overflow. That is why I'm keeping it at B, right? It's simple, right? In this case what will be the max length? The max length actually in this case will be 4. It's bigger than the older case. The max IDX, right, the index at which it is found out, what I will store now is 0 1 2 3 4 now, right? And what will be the start now? The start will be nothing at whatever is the max IDX, right? 4 minus max length, which is 4 divided by 2, right? 4 minus is 2. That is exactly this point, start. Therefore for this start calculation, right, that is why I am storing the second index in case of even palindrome. Hopefully this explanation was good. Yeah, this is the explanation, okay, in case of odd and even. Okay, next is therefore once this calculation is done, then it's the same thing, right? I do a strncpy and I pass to the resultant array s plus max idx minus max length by 2, and the whole string is of max length, and I null terminate it the r by \0, right, and I return r. Therefore this is one more solution. Therefore let's quickly compile and see if we can see. Undeclared s length is not declared. Okay, I thought I had declared s length. Oh, it's not with underscore. Okay, let me modify it here and here. Yeah, we are getting the answer. Therefore let's now submit it and see what happens in the LeetCode. Let me run the code once. It's accepted. Let me submit it now. Therefore the older solution was around 40% or something like that. I'm getting a wrong answer. The output is C while it should have been BB. Okay, I think I should have done some mistake. Most probably in this value calculation, most probably. Let me check it out. Okay, This looks okay. Find max palindrome against slen, passing I and I. In this case, oh, I have not stored the length here. I am very sorry. I think that is why it is not able to find out. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I think I was not giving proper attention while coding. So this should pass. Yeah. Therefore, if you see now, our runtime is much better than the last time, and even the memory usage is better. Therefore, if you come back, right, except for the resultant, right, I have an array. This I can ignore it because I could have done memory allocation or some other means of returning the result, right? This is basically for that reason. Therefore, I'm not storing anything extra except these some local variables which actually don't contribute a lot. And if you see from the complexity point of view, therefore this for loop adds one n, and this function adds another n, O of n, of course, and this is another O of n. Therefore O of n plus, therefore this is n plus n, which is 2n, and there is outside one more, right? Therefore basically finally it comes to O of n square. This is a quadratic solution. Okay. This is the runtime and space complexity of the solution. Hope you like the video. Subscribe to this channel if you like it. Thank you.